What we're going to talk about today are the different phases of the moon. There are 8. And we're also going to try to explain why the moon appears to have phases when we view it from Earth. So why does the moon's appearance change in terms of how much is light and how much is dark? And we're going to explain that by looking at where the sun is in relation to where the moon is at all of the different points in the moon's path around the Earth. The front page of your notes gives you some background information and also some directions for how to color this first picture. You should have 2 different colored pencils and they should be sharpened, and you should also have the phases of the moon notes packet in front of you. Reading from the introduction, there are 2 main reasons we have different phases of the moon. Number 1, the Circle of Illumination is the line that divides the moon into light and dark halves. The lit or illuminated half of the moon is always the side facing closest to the sun. Number 2, the side of the moon that we always see is the half that is closest to the Earth. The amount of this half that is lit up by the sun gives the moon its phases. As the moon revolves around the Earth once every 28.5 days, it appears to change. The changes involve how much of the lit surface we can see. This gives us what we call the 8 phases of the moon. All of the phases occur throughout an entire month. Now we're going to start coloring so we can see these changes in action. The directions say, color the diagram on the back of this sheet according to the steps below. When you are finished, you will have a diagram that shows why we see 8 phases of the moon. Step 1. Use a colored pencil to shade in all parts of the moon that are not illuminated by the sun. Remember, the same side of the moon is always lit and the opposite side is always dark. So, turning to the picture that you are going to color then, select your first colored pencil. And remember that we are coloring the side that is always dark. So you may want to select a darker color. Shade all parts of the moon that are not illuminated by the sun. As you look at this picture, you can see that the sun is supposed to be off to the left, the moon in different positions as it goes around the Earth, here, and then the Earth in the center. The different times here are to remind you that the Earth rotates. So as the Earth spins, those would be the different times of day. And at different times of day, different sides of the Earth are towards the sun, or lit up, or away from the sun, and are dark. Okay, so step 1, color all parts of the moon that are not illuminated by the sun. Let's start with position 1, which is right over here. If the sun is off to the left, the sun is going to be lighting up this left side. We want to shade the part that is not lit up. So we are going to shade the right side, because that is the part that's not illuminated by the sun. Now let's go all the way to the opposite, position 5. The sun is in the same spot. The sun is still off to the left. So the left side will be lit up, and again, the right side will be dark. Let's go up to the top and to the bottom. Remember that the sun is so big compared to the orbit of the moon around the Earth that it's still pretty much hitting straight on. So again, we would shade the right-hand side. The same for position 3 at the bottom. And again, because the sun is so large compared to the size of this orbit, all of the rest of the positions still have that same shading. The side closest to the sun is lit up. The side away from the sun is not. And we are shading the part that is not. So we are shading the part that is dark. Now let's go back to the front page. Step 2 says, use the same color to shade the half of the Earth that is not illuminated by the sun. And again, the Earth is spinning here. The Earth is rotating So the part of the earth that's not lit up changes every day, just like we have night and day. But for this picture, we are still going to shade the right-hand side because the sun is off to the left. So the part of the earth that's on the left right now is lit up, and the part of the earth that's on the right here is dark. This is the side of the earth that's having nighttime right now. This is the side that's having day. That changes, the earth spins. We're just going to look at this picture at one particular snapshot of time. Okay, step 3. Use a different colored pencil to shade in the half of the moon that is not seen from Earth. Imagine you are standing on the Earth's surface at each of the different phases and shade the part of the moon that you would not be able to see. So choose a different color. Let's start with, again, position 1. We're going to start with this moon right here, and I'm going to pretend that I'm standing on the earth right across from that position. So if I'm standing right here looking at the moon, which side can I not see? Should be the left side. I cannot see the left side, so that is the side that I'm going to shade. I don't see that side from Earth. Now let's go over and do the opposite one. If I'm standing at this point on the Earth, across from position 5, looking at the moon, which side do I not see? Now it's the right side that I don't see. So we're going to double shade that side. Let's do the top, position 7. If I'm standing at position 7, this one you're going to have to imagine in 3D a little bit, looking at the moon, which side do I not see? This time, it's the top. Let's go down and do position 3. Again, try to imagine this in 3D. This time, I don't see the bottom. That's the side that I cannot see from Earth. Now, when we do the ones that are in between, we're going to have to look at things on an angle. Because if I'm standing right here, which half can I not see? Kind of this angled half. Do the same for the remaining positions. Okay, so we've got the dark sides of both the moon and the earth shaded, and we've got the side that we can't see from Earth shaded. And hopefully you can tell from the light part that remains, this is where we get the phases of the moon. So when we can't see any of the lighted side, when all we see is the shaded side, which would be over here at position 1. This is what we call the new moon, because we don't see any of the lighted side. Opposite the new moon, over here at position 5, how much of the lighted side can we see? All of it. So this is what we call the full moon, because we can see the full lighted side. If you can remember that for the quiz, new and full are always opposite each other. That may help you figure out where the rest of the phases go. Okay, let's jump down to position 3, which is right here. Now we're going to think about the moon like a pie. How much of the pie can we see? 1/4. We can see 1/4 of the total moon, this little part right here. So this is why we call it a quarter. This one, look at your position numbers, 1, 2, 3. This is the first quarter after the new moon, so that's what it's called, first quarter. Let's go up and do the top one up here. Again, how much of the moon pie can we see? 1/4. And a lot of people think that this is second quarter, but it's not second quarter. Second quarter, if you're thinking about dividing this into 4s, second quarter would actually be over here where the full moon is, but we give that a different name. So instead of calling this one at the top second quarter, we call it third quarter. And then we just have the ones on the diagonals to put in. These smaller slices here, hopefully you can recognize that those are going to be the crescent moons. And how do you decide which one is waxing and which one is waning? The waxing crescent is the one that's on the way to getting bigger. You're seeing more of the lighted side. So this one down here is waxing because it's getting bigger, more of the lighted side. Waxing crescent. The one on the top, the amount of light is now getting smaller, so that's going to be waning crescent. As we talked about yesterday, the smallest slivers that you see are the crescent slivers. We also talked about which ones have the light on the right and which ones have the light on the left. If you can imagine yourself standing and looking at this position right here, it would be, this little slice would be on your right-hand side. Waxing has light on the right. Waning has light on the left. Waxing has light on the right. Maybe we should just put that up here. Waxing is light on the right. Waning has light on the left. And the way that I remember that, it's maybe a little bit goofy, but if you look at the middle of the word waxing, there's an X here, and right starts with an R. Both the X and the R are towards the end of the alphabet, kind of together, so that's how I remember that waxing is on the right. If you look at the word waning, right in the middle there's an N, and left begins with L, and N and L are kind of together in the alphabet too. So I remember that waning goes with left, because N and L are together. Waxing goes with right, because X and R are kind of together. Okay, let's finish labeling our phases. We have 2 left. These over here that have more than a quarter, but not quite a full moon. These are the ones that are called gibbous. And again, the waxing and the waning, it depends on whether the light is on the right or on the left. The other way you can think about it is the light getting bigger or is it getting smaller? So we have waxing gibbous on the way to full, and we have waning gibbous on the other side. Pause here if you need to finish writing this down or coloring. We are going to change pages. Page 2. Now that you know why the moon has 8 phases, we need to learn to recognize them as they are seen from Earth. The following diagrams represent the various phases of the moon. The shaded part is the dark part of the moon, and the white part is the lit part of the moon. All of the phases of the moon are listed below. Label the diagrams with the proper phases. Then number each phase in the correct order, beginning with the new moon phase. So we need to be able to recognize the phases as they are seen from Earth. And this is where that light on the right or light on the left is going to come in really handy. First, let's start with new moon. That's the first phase. When we have a new moon, we can't see the moon. So it's totally dark for us when we have a new moon. That is phase 1. After new moon, we're beginning to see just a little bit of light. So that would be waxing crescent. So we know it's got to be one of the crescent pictures. Remember, waxing goes with light on the right. So the waxing crescent is this one. And that is phase 2. Then we have first quarter. First quarter is still on the side of things where the light is getting bigger. That means first quarter is also waxing. So first quarter is light on the right, and that's this one. That's phase 3. Now we've got more than half of what we see lit up, so we need to look for a gibbous moon. We're still waxing, we're still getting bigger. That means light on the right, which is this picture. And this is phase 4. Now we should be all the way to the full lighted moon, which is here, full moon. This is phase 5. And now we're going to start to lose the light. And we're going to lose just a little bit of it at first. So that means that waning gibbous is next. Now that we're waning, the light should be on the left. Waning gibbous is phase 6, light on the left. Halfway between full and new, we have a quarter. It must be third quarter because we're on the waning side. You also know that because the light is on the left, and that is phase 7. And the only one left before we start the cycle again would be waning crescent. Again, waning means the light is on the left. Oops. Waning crescent, and that is phase 8. Pause here if you need to finish writing this down. We are going to a new page. Page 3. Read the definitions below, then label the moon phases on the diagram. It might be helpful on this page because it's not such a good copy to shade in the things that are light and the things that are dark. What you have at the top here are the definitions for the 8 phases. We've already talked about how you recognize these, so I'm not going to read them to you. Let's just complete the diagram below. I am going to use the black color up here to shade in the parts that are dark. And those are supposed to be the parts that are kind of like a dotted line. That's to indicate that you can't really see them. So we can't really see that part, or this part, or this part. And if you've got a dark colored pencil, you may find it helpful to shade those in as well. That's dark. That's dark. That is dark. And this is dark. Okay, so again, practice one more time. Let's label our phases. This time, the numbers are set up a little bit differently, but we're still going to recognize the phases the same way. This time, they're starting the cycle at number 1, all of it's lighted, so that is full moon. Then, if you're starting with all being lighted, you're going to start to lose the light, and you lose just a little bit at first, which is going to be waning gibbous. Notice again here, waning means light on the left. As you are losing light, you get to third quarter. Third quarter is on the waning side of things. That means the light is on the left. Third quarter is on the left. Might be helpful, maybe think about baseball. If you are the batter and you're looking at the diamond, third base is on your left-hand side. So maybe that will help you remember that third quarter is light on the left. Next one, we've lost almost all of our light. It's still going away, so we have waning crescent. All of the things that are included in this little arrow right here are waning phases. The light is getting smaller. Let's do the other side. Now that we've lost all of the light and we can't see any of the lighted side, that is new moon. And now we will start to bring that light back. So we have just a little bit of light coming back, means waxing crescent. Again, waxing is light on the right. Then we have first quarter. If you're the batter, first base is on your right-hand side, so first quarter is light on the right. And then we have waxing gibbous. Waxing is light on the right. All of the things that are labeled with this little arrow right here are on the waxing side of the cycle. Waxing is light on the right. Waning is light on the left. Okay, that should do it for the phases of the moon notes.